Today is June 12th, 2017. I am Ted Doskaris, and I have the Napa Valley wine train configured on my layout. Right now it's under the house, and it will be traveling outdoors to my outdoor layout section. The wine train has two ALCO, it's all Aristo-Craft, two ALCO FA1s. The real wine train had FPA 4s, which were made by Montreal Locomotive Works, and there are some differences in it, but they're closely related. So I'm using track power with an Aristo-Craft Revolution train engineer, as can be seen here if it's in focus. And the wine train, I'll bring it up a little bit closer here, describe what I've done to it, modifications. I've equipped both locos and all 5 cars, this is a 5-car train here in this configuration, with Kadee 907 body mount couplers. And those type couplers are typically used for on the truck mount tang, but they also are adaptable to body mount. And in the case of the locomotives, and here's the 907, if I can get it in focus, the pamphlet of the little card, you can see the body mount coupler on the nose, and you can see the couplers on the back sections of the locomotives that are coupled back to back, just as they would be in the wine train. And these particular locomotives I lowered 5/16 of an inch, which is about 312 thousandths, or a little shy of 1/3 of an inch. And I lowered them by telescoping the chassis into the car body shell, and it entailed a number of modifications to do that. The pilot remained where it is normally attached on the locomotive, and I used a spacer block, a custom-made spacer block. It's about 830 thousandths or 840 thousandths thick to mount the coupler on, and the front, and then in the rear a little bit different spacer block of, oh, I'm sorry, the front one is 575 thousandths thick, and the rear one is 830 thousandths thick, and so it's a little bit different, but the ladders had to be mounted in a different fashion than the factory ladders were mounted. And there's a total of 3 ladders on each side, and of course the cars I didn't have to lower; they're pretty close to prototype. The way these Aristo-Craft engines originally were, they were way too high on the railhead, namely 5/16 of an inch from the railhead, or too tall from the railhead. And if you look up information on dimensions for these ALCO type locomotives, that's how I determined how much to lower them and made some compromise. So let me run the train a little bit more and run it outdoors. And as in the real Napa Valley wine train, there's an observation platform car on each end of the train, and that's so they can run the engines down a siding back to the other, or around to the other side of the train, and thereby go on the return trip without having to go on use a Y switch or a big loop around track. So here's the couplers on the cars. The observation car uses the 907 also, as all the cars and locos do, but I had to make a special using a special metal T-bracket, because the platform tends to sag down on the Aristo-Craft car that comes from the factory. So that straightened it out, and also allowed the coupler to be properly aligned and mounted. So the train has an observation car on one end, and then it has a dining car, and then it has what they call the deli, which is really the Aristo-Craft coach, and then it has another dining car, and then it has, of course, the other observation car. So I'll speed it up here. And there it goes to my outdoor portal. And I'll go outside here. And it's come across the drop-in bridge here, my layout. And I'll speed it up, get up the grade here. So it's coming up my first part of my double loop to gain altitude, to go from the lower part of the yard, my backyard, to the upper part. I also added a little bit of weight to these engines, and these particular engines include ball bearing, the later version ball bearing trucks, even though they were high from the railhead. And of course the final production version of the Aristo-Craft FA1s and FB1s were actually factory lowered to the railhead to make them more realistic. So these engines weigh about 7.2 pounds each now. And I'll slow it down a little bit, and have its train has got to the upper part of the yard. It's going through my middle track section. It's going to go around the horseshoe curve here, around the viaduct. And then go back down. Now it's headed for the viaduct again. I happen to have the lights on in all the cars. Right now it's later in the afternoon and a little bit shady. And here it comes down the grade. And there you have it.